Now, I did mention, I think last week, maybe the week before, that Mamor was going to preach his first sermon with us today, but through circumstances beyond his control, I'm preaching. So we will have another opportunity later in, plenty of time ahead of us to hear Mamor preach. So I want you to, just for a moment, think how you would describe to another person the taste of a tomato. How would you describe to another person the colour red? How would you describe to this person the smell of a rose? Don't ruin it for everybody, Kevin. So there are some experiences that we might take for granted. But when it comes to trying to explain these experiences, share these experiences with others, perhaps we might be lacking for words at times. A core aspect of our Christian faith, being called to be the body of Christ through our baptism, is to share our experience of Jesus, the love of God, with other people. And whilst that experience might make sense to us individually, because they are such personal experiences, perhaps when we try to explain that to another person, perhaps words. Now, if this describes you in any way, I hope that you will find some encouragement from today's gospel reading that Mamor read for us. In this reading, we encounter Andrew. Now, Andrew was a disciple, a follower of John the Baptist, and as Lauren pointed out in her talk, John the Baptist wasn't pointing to himself saying, "Come to me." He was always saying, "Someone greater than me will come." He was there to point to Jesus. And it's on this occasion that he's got his disciples, his followers, and he says, "Look, there is the Lamb of God." So we introduced to Andrew, he was a disciple of John the Baptist. We also told that he was the brother of Simon, who's later becomes known as Peter. And so in John 1, verse 36, we have John the Baptist saying, "Look, here is the Lamb of God." And Andrew, through his faith, he begins his journey with Jesus. Now, what do we know about Andrew, and what can we maybe learn from his example and apply within our own faith journey? Andrew is characteristically a person who is always introducing Jesus to other people. In John's Gospel, there are 3 occasions where Andrew is the one introducing someone to Jesus. The first one is from chapter 1 that we heard today, where Andrew goes to his brother Simon Peter, and says, "We've met the Messiah." And that's from John chapter 1. The first thing Andrew did was to find his brother Simon and tell him, "We have found the Messiah, that is the Christ," and he brought him to Jesus. The second occasion is the young boy at the feeding of the 5,000. Now, was it 5 loaves and 2 fish, or 2 loaves and 5 fish? Who remembers? It's 5 and 2, but what is it? So that's the boy that Andrew brings to Jesus. So we get that from John chapter 6. Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish." So he brings the boy to Jesus. And then even later in John's Gospel, in chapter 12, he brings Greek worshippers to Jesus. Now, there were some Greeks amongst those who went up to worship at the festival. They came to Philip. Notice who they come to. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, with a request. "Sir," they said, "we would like to see Jesus." And what does Philip do? Philip went to tell Andrew. Andrew and Philip, in turn, told Jesus. So it's interesting how Andrew has established himself as this person who brings people to Jesus. So even Philip is going, "Andrew, these people want to meet Jesus." So we see this characteristic of Andrew in John's Gospel, as the Gospel progresses, of bringing people to Jesus. Andrew is a person with a missionary heart, an outreach heart. Having himself found friendship and faith and trust in Jesus, he spends the rest of his journey bringing other people to Jesus to experience that as well. Andrew is a great example in that he could not just keep Jesus to himself. And no surprises, this is our calling too, to share Jesus with others. We are baptized. At our baptism, we receive a baptism candle, and we are told to shine as a light in the world to the glory of God. It's not about bringing people to ourselves or to little St. John's. It's about bringing people to Christ. That's our calling. Now, I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up, but who feels daunted by that task? Who maybe feels a little bit out of their depth or overwhelmed? Who perhaps feels that they might lack the right words at the right time to explain to a neighbour or a colleague or someone in the shop or even a family member why you believe, why you are drawn to a community of faith, why you pray. Now, some of you will have the words, gifted by the Holy Spirit. But for many of us, and I would put myself in this category, it is daunting. Even as a priest, it's taken me years to grow in my own confidence, to tell people what Jesus, what God means to me. We all know what a tomato, well, hopefully, we all should know what a tomato tastes like. Hopefully, you all can recognize the colour red. And hopefully, you've all had the joy of smelling a fresh rose. Yet for many of us, just as explaining what those senses might be like, they might be difficult, so too might we struggle in explaining to another person what our encounter with Jesus means with us, to us, how it resonates with us. And I believe this is possibly because our relationship to God, to Jesus, is deeply personal. We share it communally at church, but our walk with God is deeply personal, it's individual. And yet this is our calling, make no mistake. None of us sitting here, standing here, none of us can say that's not my role. I'm baptized, I'm a member of the church, but that's not my role to tell people about Jesus, to bring people to experience the love of God. That's Greg's role, or Mamore's role, or Mike's role, or Vic's role. Not one of us can say that. It is our collective responsibility as baptized members of the body of Christ to bring people to the love of God, to be an Andrew in the world. And it is daunting. The love that we have freely received, we are called to freely share. Now, if you feel daunted by this, take heart. Take heart, because there are words in today's gospel, simple words, which I believe is a way to do this in faith. And it's the words of Jesus. We have the example of Andrew, but we have the words of Jesus. And these words we hear when the disciples asked Jesus, "Where are you staying?" And Jesus responded, "Come and see." And I encourage each of you to use those simple words. Come and see. Simple words, yet some of the most powerful words, I believe, in Scripture. The best way for someone if you're trying to explain the taste of a tomato, is to offer the person a tomato and let the person taste the tomato for themselves. The best way to describe the colour red is to find the colour red like we have at the back on our emergency defib and say that is the colour red. Let them experience it for themselves. The best way for someone to know the smell of a rose is to let them smell the rose. And my friends, I believe the best way to describe the relationship of Jesus is to let them experience Jesus in their lives themselves. Come and see. We are called to share the good news with others, to encourage others to encounter Jesus, invite them to church, And I've said this before, I said this at 7, I've said this many a time. We don't invite people to church to fill the church and put bums on seats. We don't invite people to church so that more money goes into the offertory and I can have longer and wonderful holidays, which would be great. That's not why we invite people to church. It's so that they, in this community, may experience God in their lives, and so that they may be transformed through Jesus Christ. That is why we invite them to church. That is why we are sharing the good news, so that they may be transformed through the love of God. So I pray for you. I pray for myself as well, that each of us will be filled with the courage to use those simple words that Jesus himself used. Come and see. We are each to be called to be Andrews in the world. At the start of this year, in the season of Epiphany, each of us are called to share the nature of God with those around us, our colleagues, our family, those people in our communities. We are called to share God's love. And one of the best ways, one of the simplest, easiest ways is to say, come and see. So may we have the courage to say these simple words in our community so that God may transform the lives of those around us. Amen.